What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Battlestone. So today we're having an episode of my Simple Build series, where I'm going to be talking about my very first martial that I am personally playing. So I should first explain why I'm doing a Simple Build series. And the reason is because my original vision for builds was simply unsustainable. It was very comprehensive, right? I was detailing every single level and calling out every single ability and going over combos and implications for every single one and crunching numbers and making comments and offering suggestions for like round 1 and round 2 and doing that for every level. And it was just unsustainable. It was barely sustainable when I was doing this full time. And now that I have a full-time job and I'm just doing this on the side, it's not sustainable at all. That's why I've been doing hardly any builds lately. But there are some builds that I want to do, and so I have been experimenting with a new, shorter build format that I hope is going to work out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. It's not nearly as comprehensive, but I hope I can at least get my ideas across and the concepts across, and it's going to be of value to you guys. However, before I go into that particular build that I'm playing, Melee Psi Warrior, to give you the lead, I want to talk about where I'm playing this build. I have started a new Westmarch server, the New Dawn Coalition, and I am very impressed with it. I think it might be the best Westmarch server out there. What makes me say this? Well, I'm actually going to go over a point-by-point list of all of its advantages here in a minute, but I first want to give a little bit of context and background about NDC and how it came to be. It came out of TFC, the Forged Concordance, which I still consider to be my main Westmarch server. I've been playing there for over a year. I have my highest level character there, my beloved 16th level Dowlock, and I look forward to taking him to 20th level and then retiring him and then starting a new character at a lower level and playing at TFC for many years to come. But TFC is largely people-driven. It's got a ton of bookkeepers, a ton of administrators, there's a ton of DMs and a ton of players, and so anytime you have that number of people together, there are going to be disagreements, and there are going to be arguments, and there's going to be favoritism. And so TFC is not immune to any of these things, and so there was a schism at TFC. And this is actually often the death knell of Westmarches, in my understanding and in my experience. There's a schism and then the Westmarch dies. But TFC is huge. So there was a pretty significant schism, and TFC is still going strong, and the DMs and administrators and bookkeepers that left TFC have formed NDC, the New Dawn Coalition. And they did so in large part to address their perceived disagreements and failures with TFC, and spent a ton of time trying to get it right. They were in a 9-month beta session, and then did a complete server and character reset about 3 months ago to start the server over fresh once they ironed out all the kinks and finished all of the programming, because man, they have written some pretty impressive bots to help facilitate the experience. So yeah, I've been impressed with them, and I'm gonna, without further ado, jump into the list of things that I think make NDC really good, and then I'm going to go into my character that I'm playing there in the new simple build format. So what's so great about NDC, the New Dawn Coalition? Well, first of all, it's a new server with a ton of energy and people and mental energy involved. Way more than your typical Westmarch server. And so it ends up having a pretty high ratio of DMs to players and a high number of games relative to the population. I mean, there are so many games available that at the starting ranks, some games can't even fill because all of the players are already playing other games. Since they started 3 months ago, they've been having 4 games a day, and over the last month, they've been having 6 games a day. And so that's just a tremendous number of games, and it's really awesome as a player to have all of these games available. It's also cool that the server is new enough that only a handful of PCs have reached 9th level. All of the players are 9th level or below. Most players are well below 9th level. I personally am only 6th level, and there are a ton of people at the initiate rank, which is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th level. So it's already very well developed in terms of the number of people that are involved, which is very important to how good a Westmarch server is. However, the coolest part about the New Dawn Coalition is the extreme level of automation that they have. They have bots for everything, and it really eases the play by making bookkeepers largely unnecessary. If you've played Westmarch servers before, you know that pretty much anything you do has to go through a bookkeeper. If you want to buy something, if you want to sell something, if you want to do a downtime activity, when you level up, all of those things have to be handled and recorded and logged and approved by bookkeepers, but not at NDC because they've written bots that handle all of it, and they do it instantly, and they do it error-free. I mean, there are hardly any mistakes. Those are eliminated because the human element is substantially reduced. So yeah, very, very impressed with the programming and the bots that are available. It really makes it cool where I can just type in a command and I see my entire character sheet. I see how much gold I have. I see what my experience is. I see what my proficiencies are. I see all of my belongings. It's just very cool. And one of the cool things about all of this automation is that it eliminates favoritism in list picking. This is something that a lot of players complain about, and at NDC it is just not an issue. Everything is open rolled, everything is rolled automatically, it's fully transparent, and the algorithm strongly favors players that haven't recently played. So that's pretty cool. If you go a whole month without playing a game, you are almost certain to get the next game that you sign up for. And if you do, I want to be on your team. But that's really cool. And the favoritism in item rewards has been eliminated because they only allow consumable items as mission rewards. Sometimes there can be the perception or the reality that a DM hooks up his friends with an amazing item, and that's just not fair to anybody else, and so that just can't happen at NDC because of the rule that only consumable items can be mission rewards. However, there's still a strong and fully automated magic item search system. Again, it's very cool that there are no bookkeepers involved, so it happens automatically. And it's fun and it's fair, and it includes a pricier option if you want to eliminate luck entirely and just create the item that you want in order to facilitate a particular build concept. Because let's face it, certain builds require certain items. If you have a Mitzium apparatus build, you kind of need a Mitzium apparatus. So that's very cool as well. And just generally speaking, the economy is strongly regulated. So it's not flooded with gold or magic items, and it's all fair and transparent, and that is really awesome. I also like that it's a mostly rules as written rule set. There's not an extreme level of homebrew modifications. There are minimal race and subclass nerfs. There's not a lot of banned spells. There's not a lot of banned items, so I really like that. And I think the server is friendly both to players and to DMs. From the player perspective, our PCs can start at either 2nd or 3rd level, so you never need to play without your subclass. There's another server that I play on where you have to start at level 1, and I recommend it to friends, and they don't start there because they don't want to play level 1. Level 1 is for beginners, Tier 1 is largely for beginners, so if you're a veteran that wants to get through it quickly, you can do that, but you can advance as quickly or as slowly as you want. If you want to get into Tier 2 quickly, it only takes 6 games to get to 5th level if you start at 3rd level. That's what I did, and I actually failed a mission along the way. It's pretty cool. You get your XP for failed missions at NDC, which you don't at the other servers that I play on, and I think that makes sense, right? You actually learn more from your mistakes than your successes, typically speaking, right? So you can get up there quickly, or you can slow mode, which at NDC means that you just stay at the rank that you want for as long as you want. You don't ever have to gain a level if you don't want to. So that's different from other servers where slow mode means you just get half XP and you end up leveling regardless, even if you don't want to, just more slowly. And it's also cool for players that the DMs are less restricted on their encounter difficulty. So there's the potential for much more challenging missions. This can be fantastic for Optimizer, who can be rarely challenged by server AXP limits. I'm one of those where it's very hard to find a tough battle because my PC is so optimized and I'm a strong player and I'm playing with other optimized PCs and strong players, and DMs are just not allowed to throw super tough encounters at me because that sort of encounter would decimate a more casual sort of player. So I think it's really cool that NDC has the potential for those sorts of missions, which I have definitely noticed. I have already been on very tough missions with my now 6th level character. I have killed a dragon already and experienced 3 different types of dragon's breath, to give you a clue as how things can get when you're at 5th or 6th level here. But that was my choice. I chose hard missions. They actually have both hard and easy missions at every rank. So PCs get to choose their challenge level and still progress. You don't have to go through wicked hard combats if you don't want to. You can dial it back and have easier combats. And of course, there's plenty of role-playing and interactions-driven missions as well, if that's what you want. From the DM side of things, they are allowed to use any tabletop they want. Roll20 is still the standard, but they have the flexibility to use Foundry if they want, or any other system that they think is cool. So DMs aren't restricted in that sense, and that's cool for them. And I'm also told that the DM promotion criteria is pretty well defined and insulated from favoritism. I don't know personally because I only play and I'm not a DM, but the people that I know that do DM there are really impressed by that, and they mentioned to me that I should probably tell people that. Finally, I'm playing my first Marshal there, and I'm only 6th level, so we could potentially play together pretty quickly. You started Initiate, 6 games later you're an Adept, and we're going to be going up for the same missions and being on the same teams. So what is that character that I'm playing at NDC? Well, I am playing William X, who is a straight fighter, a Psi Warrior, and I don't plan to multi-class. This is an experience that I've been wanting to try for some time, just a straight Marshal, just to get a sense of how it plays, how it works, whether I feel that it's worse or better than the casters that I tend to prefer. And so I was excited for the concept, I've been excited to play, and I'm currently 6th level, and I've been having fun with this character. So I'm just in my simple build series going to go over the choices that I'm making. I'm not going to go over the stuff where I don't have a choice, and I'm going to assume that you kind of know what fighters are all about. And if you don't, I recommend going to 5e Tools and just clicking Fighter and then clicking Psi Warrior, and then you're going to see like a level by level description of how you progress and all of that. Here I'm going to go over the decisions that I made and call out some playable synergies and make some observations. And that's the simple build series. So William X is a Psi Warrior fighter. Our starting stats are going to be Strength 17, Dexterity 8, Constitution 16, Intelligence 15, Wisdom 8, and Charisma 8. And I should mention that you could choose to go Intelligence 14 and Wisdom 10, or even differently if you choose to go after a headband of intellect, but I chose not to, and so I'm going with this. But you can play around with these stats if you want to, do things a little bit differently than what I present here. Then for my starting skills, I went with Athletics, Perception, Arcana, and Investigation, and I'm going to be adding Stealth later, so those are my starting skills. Then I chose for my race Simic Hybrid, because I think it works with the Psi Warrior powers pretty well. The Simic Hybrid has to choose its animal enhancements at 1st and 5th level. So at 1st level, we're taking Manta Glide, which we're reskinning to Telekinetic Glide. And at 5th level, we're taking Grappling Appendages, which we are reskinning to Psionic Tentacles. And I'll explain a little bit later how that's going to work with the build concept. But first, I want to go over the feats that we chose. And fighters get a lot of feats, more than other classes. They get feats at 4th, 6th, 8th, 12th, 14th, 16th, and 19th level. And so at 4th level, we're going to start off by taking Skill Expert to get our +1 strength to bump it up to 18, and get Athletics Expertise so that we're good at grappling, and to get Stealth Proficiency because it's an important skill roll, and even though we wear heavy armor, we're going to want to be proficient in it just to get a little bump there. Then at 6th level, we're going to be adding Great Weapon Master, so we can do a lot of damage and get a bonus action attack sometimes. And then at 8th level, we're taking Gift of the Gem Dragon to bump our intelligence to 16 and get a cool reaction that will do damage and push an enemy away if they attack us, which I'm going to be reskinning to Psionic Rebuke. So that can be cool. Sometimes if we are charged by a creature with multi-attack, we can push it away on the first attack, and then it can't get the rest of its attack sequence down, and then I go smack it on my turn. So we're going to see how that works. I thought it was cool, and I just wanted to play with it, and I think it makes role-playing sense since it's a telekinetic power, and that's kind of my whole shtick here. Then at 12th level, we're getting Resilient Wisdom because we want to have good wisdom saves, especially since we have Indomitable, which is going to give us rerolls, and rerolls work a lot better when you have a significant bonus to the roll already. Doesn't help you much to get a reroll if you can't make that save. And even though we have Guarded Mind, which allows us to use a psionic energy die to dismiss any charm or frightened effect on us at the beginning of our turn, there's a lot of wisdom saving throws that don't involve charm or fear, and so we're going to want to have resilient wisdom. Then at 14th level, we're taking Alert, because we have a dex of 8, and this whole time we've been losing initiative more often than not, and it sucks, so we're adding Alert to get that initiative bump, and it's cool that we are never surprised, and it never hurts to be attacked at disadvantage in conditions of heavy obscurement, right? So Alert's an amazing feat. We had that at 14th level. Then at 16th level, we are taking Fighting Initiate Blind Fighting, which we're reskinning to Psionic Vision, and I'm just adding it because Blind Sight is one of the most powerful abilities in the game. It's very difficult to get, and Fighting Initiate is one of the few ways to get it, and I think it works well on this character. So we're adding that, and then at 19th level, we're adding Tough, because this is a frontliner. He's going to be getting hit a lot, and having an extra 38 or 40 hit points is a lot in this game. Now, some considerations on the feats. I did not add Strength +2 because I'm anticipating getting a Belt of Giant Strength in Tier 3. Remember, in this system, you have some control over the items, and so I'm pretty sure I'm going to get one of those. But if I didn't have that assurance, I would work +2 Strength in pretty quickly, probably at 8th level, and then just bump everything down 1 and take Tough off the list. Because I have some control over my items, I also considered just getting a Headband of Intellect, but I decided to preserve the attunement slot. I decided to add Gift of the Gem Dragon. I just think it's cool role-playing, and I've wanted to play with that feat a little bit and just see what I can do with it and how good it is. But I will say I did consider Telepathic as well. I think that's a pretty good RP option, and being able to cast a component-free Detect Thoughts can be really good in the interaction phase. But I figured I would bump my guy's combat abilities first. And I will say that if you're not worried about the RP connection, that Fey Touched is probably the most optimal option. Getting Misty Step so you can teleport out of walls of forces or whatever is really good, and getting Gift of Alacrity to also address the low dexterity and bad initiative roll that we have is also amazing. So Fey Touch would be great if we're just going the optimizer route, but I went with Gift of the Gem Dragon because I'm not really crunching numbers on this build and really just kind of doing what I want and playing the character that I want, and presuming that I'll be able to drive it to good effect. So those were the choices I made. What kind of playable synergies do I expect from those choices? Well, one, Manta Glide combos with the running high jump. So I have a 40-foot standard move. Technically it's a 30-foot move, but if I get a 10-foot running start and then jump 5 feet, which I can do, then I can glide 10. So run 10, jump 5 to glide 10, and I do that twice. That gets me 40 feet of standard move, and it could be up to 60 feet. If someone casts the jump spell on me, which I actually have an ally that has done that for me a couple of times, or if I acquire Boots of Striding and Springing, then I'll be able to move up to 60 feet around just as standard, which is pretty cool. Manta Glide also combos with Psi Powered Leap, which we get at 7th level, which allows us to use a bonus action to confer upon us a 60-foot fly speed, but that fly speed ends at the end of our turn. So if we're still up in the air, we're going to fall, and it's cool to have Manta Glide, which is basically an always-on feather fall. Additionally, it gives us a pretty crazy move option where we can move up to 180 feet in one round with Psi Powered Leap, right? We use it to go 60 feet in one direction and up, and then we fall in that direction another 120 feet because of Manta Glide. That's without using our action for it. If we dashed, we could cover up to 360 feet in one round. That's pretty amazeballs. So I thought that was a cool synergy. And then Simic Hybrid also gets grappling appendages, which enables highly optimized grappling, and we are leaning into that. I think it works well with Telekinetic Thrust, which we get at 7th level, which means when we use our Psionic Strike, it inflicts a strength saving throw versus being knocked prone. So we'll be able to do damage and knock them prone, and then we'll be able to get our prone grapple combo down, which is like a poor man's restraint. I've been very impressed by the prone grapple combo, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And I don't even have Telekinetic Thrust yet, being only 6th level, so I've had success just shoving an enemy to the ground and achieving that prone grapple combo, and it's been very effective. However, the cool thing about Simic Hybrid is because it's using tentacles to grapple, it can use a two-handed weapon for Great Weapon Master, and you can do this while grappling up to 2 creatures. So the idea is that I'm going to knock them prone and then grapple them so they can't get out of it, and that's going to create attacks at advantage to land Great Weapon Master consistently. And even though I just brought that combo online, I just made 6th level, it has been effective. I am really happy with that. And I can use grappling to drag enemies into environmental hazards or other control options. For example, I could jump up into the air with Psi-powered leap. I could bring up to 2 enemies with me in my tentacles, and I guess up to 4 if I wanted to use my other hands too, and then drop them all for 66 damage, presuming that I'm dashing, and they'll be prone. So maybe I'll then drop on top of them and use Action Surge or something to hit them a couple times with Great Weapon Master, and I don't know, that seems pretty cool and thematic and fun, so I can't wait to try that. So not too complicated, those are the combos and such that I plan to use. And since I played it up to 6th level so far, I have some observations from playing my first martial. One, Protective Field has been pretty awesome. It's really extended my personal durability, and it's cool that you can use it on your allies. I have used it a couple of times on my allies to great effect, keeping them from going unconscious and having a powerful impact. And Psionic Strike has been pretty solid. When I've tried to Nova, I've used Psionic Strike and it's been pretty good. I don't think the return on investment is as high on Psionic Strike as it is for Protective Field, and there's been a few instances where I've chosen not to use it because I wanted to reserve those Psionic Energy dice for Protective Field later, but Psionic Strike has still been pretty solid. And telekinetic movement has been really clutch at times. It's like a poor man's Vortex Warp, and I really love Vortex Warp. So in my last session, I used it to move an unconscious ally out of a 30-foot pit where he was being devoured by a black pudding. And a few sessions before that, I used it to pull an unconscious ally into the same room as me and the rest of our allies, where we were then able to close a door and cut off half of our enemies and turned a difficult combat into a manageable combat. I've used it to move a melee ally considerably closer to the battle and over difficult terrain and environmental obstacles so that he was able to attack the bad guy. So I've been open to opportunities to using it, and when I've seen one, I have used it, and it's been pretty effective. I'm digging telekinetic movement. I am also loving grappling. Grappling is awesome, and I think an underrated form of control. Like when my allied casters throw down a persistent AoE spell, like Web or Spirit Guardians, it is way more effective with a good grappler around. I had an ally cast Spirit Guardians a couple sessions ago, and I had a great time grappling enemies, dragging them into it, and doing massive damage, and it made me reflect that even though I'm on another server playing a 13th level character now that is basically built around Armor of Agathis and Spirit Guardians, I'm casting Spirit Guardians all the time, and no one has ever done that for me. No one has ever grappled an enemy and started dragging them in and out of Spirit Guardians, let alone multiple enemies. So that's pretty cool. And the prone grapple combo is extremely debilitating. It's a poor man's restrained, and allies love it. The people I'm playing with love it when I do that to an enemy, and they just go to town on it, and it's been very, very effective. In fact, that's the last observation that I wanted to make about playing a martial, is that it actually hasn't been any less tactical in terms of decision making. I have a pretty decent number of abilities to consider how to apply in any given scenario, so far I haven't seen too much difference. Now this is probably going to change as I continue to level, where full casters get a lot of spell options, and I'm not going to be getting that many options. But so far, it's been about the same, and in terms of resource management, managing my psionic energy dice and my action surge and my second wind has been more or less the same as managing spell slots. Also, positioning is just as important as with casters. Knowing where to stand and choosing the optimal place to stand still takes some brain power and some thought and makes a big old difference. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm just reporting that so far, having played halfway through 6th level, that playing a martial hasn't been any less tactical than playing a caster. So that's it. That is the Psi Warrior that I'm playing on New Dawn Coalition, a simple, straight class, Simic hybrid that is built around grappling and doing damage and protecting people and jumping around with his psionic abilities. You know, my version of a Jedi, kind of. And I'm having a ton of fun with it, and he's been very effective. I gotta say, my team have largely considered him the MVP many times. I've had a huge impact many times, so I'm digging it. It's a pretty powerful character, at least in the games that I'm playing. So let me know what you think of the build in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the new simple build format in the comments below. And feel free to join me at NDC and play with me and this character. I'll put all of the relevant information for NDC in the video description below, and you can join and see if you appreciate it as much as I do. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. This has been Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Bafflestone. See you next time.